I'm Jennifer Gottlieb Elazhari. I am currently the program manager for the New England Heat Pump Accelerator. I'm representing today on behalf of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. We are the state that signed a $450 million climate pollution reduction grant with US EPA on behalf of a coalition of New England states to fund this New England Heat Pump Accelerator, which was actually modeled after the tech program in California with some minor changes. So we really owe a great debt to the state of California and all the folks that worked on that. So next slide, please. I'm just going to give a little overview here of our program, and then I'm going to hand it off to Rebecca Rothman from our implementing team. So the coalition of states we represent is Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Next slide. And I'm probably going to just go very fast over this because I feel like this audience really knows why heat pumps already. But heat pumps, of course, are a proven technology in New England. There is a little bit of misinformation in New England that they can't quite meet the standards for heating in a New England winter, but our coalition members, such as Maine and Massachusetts, and our great developers of heat pumps have developed products that certainly can meet the needs of a New England winter. So we have undertaken this and we're trying to educate people about that. Next slide. Our program has three main hubs. In the market hub, we have most of our money, which is about $270 million in midstream incentives that Rebecca's going to go over with you. We also have workforce development in our market hub. We're sponsoring each state in our coalition to launch one or two state level pilots, and we'll have about 3 RFPs for community grants within our coalition. We also will host a website that will have educational tools and data from our program. Next slide. So we have a market transformation plan, which is actually listed on our website if you'd like to check it out. Our website is www.nehpa.org. It stands for New England Heat Pump Accelerator. And in the market transformation plan, we list the barriers that we are contending with that are listed here and our theory of change of how we will address those barriers. Next slide. Some of the challenges I want to just make you aware of here that we have needed to address to set up a very complex program that can pay distributors in a timely way is importantly, if you are going to be using especially federal funds or government funds to set up a midstream program, there is a little bit of a tension because government grants often work on a reimbursement basis, and our distributors need to be paid very quickly. So our reimbursement basis could take up to 60 days, whereas our distributors need to be paid within 10 days or they will not participate in the program. So what we did was we actually were able to set up an advance account for our implementer, which has allowed our program to be successful. We also have a lot of partners in our coalition because we have several states and a lot of workforce development organizations and so forth, evaluator, 2 conveners. We're a really big team here. So we've had to invest a lot of time in coming up with good governance documents to bring us all into alignment. So we invested a lot of time into that, as well as how to address a very large region. A market transformation program over a big geographic area is very complex. So we gave our implementers 3 to 5 months to come up with excellent plans for each hub of how they will deal with all that complexity. So on the front end, we invested a lot of time in governance. Next slide, please. And I'm going to give it over to Rebecca Rothman from our implementation team.
Hi, good morning, everyone on the West Coast here. Rebecca with VEIC. I'm the operations director for the accelerator, coming to you today from Alameda, California. A big part of the accelerator that supports our market transformation goals And our theory of change is the midstream incentive program. And probably before I go further, I should note that VEIC is the prime implementer, but our partners, we have many partners, one of which is Energy Solutions, who is really taking the lead on this part of the program, the midstream incentive, and they've contributed substantially to this content. Slide. All right, so digging in a little here, the Accelerator Midstream Program partners with HVAC and plumbing distributors to provide incentives to customers on the purchase and installation of high efficiency heat pump and heat pump water heater equipment. We seek to meet distributors where they're at, and distributors care most about maximizing their sales. They don't tend to care about, state boundaries or utility territory lines. And it's really a benefit of having a regional program that cuts down on some of those barriers. By issuing incentives at the distributor level of the supply chain, the program will significantly increase the stocking and sales of cold climate heat pumps, heat pump technologies across the region. And as you can imagine, there's significantly less distributors in these 5 states than there are contractors. And this approach really allows us to get more complete coverage, reach more people, spread out more benefits with really the same amount of resources because we're really interacting at the distributor level. Midstream incentives can layer with existing utility and state heat pump incentives. So they're really meant to accelerate or be kind of an adder or a bump while building the market and complement those existing programs, but they cannot layer with other federal funds. Slide. Just to kind of further leave the message around the midstream approach, our partners Energy Solutions have implemented midstream programs across the country and have consistently found that the ease of the midstream path exponentially drives greater participation. There's a couple examples here from other parts of the country that have similar levels of program awareness and investment as the accelerator does. Slide. One of the main principles of our accelerator program design has been to avoid creating any market confusion in a region where there is already a pretty large ecosystem of existing programs. The EIC and Energy Solutions have been implementing programs in the Northeast for some time and have been able to apply learnings from some of those earlier programs to the design of this midstream program. There's a couple of things that I think are maybe most notable here. One of them is the reducing of supply chain partner risk with a decision to opt for consistent incentives across the states, a consistent qualified products list, and consistent eligibility requirements, really kind of taking the thinking out of it for the distributors who are participating. Also minimizing data collection. We only require distributors to collect data that's available at the point of sale at the time of purchase, which really minimizes the friction at that point of sale. What Jen mentioned before, and is also another kind of core piece of this, is our fast payment. So we're able to get money out to distributors very, very quickly with that pre-fund account. This has been a critical element. We've gotten tons of feedback from distributors that they're impressed and happy with an average turnaround time of about 10 days of getting paid once their application is for the claim is submitted. The last thing I'll mention here is frequent touch points with distributors. All of these touch points keep them engaged. We're able to leverage that engagement and those relationships that Energy Solutions have built with many of these folks for years to work with those distributors to develop and host trainings on their sites, which is also reinforcing some of our workforce development components of the program. Slide. All right. With all of that, the team has adopted some QA/QC processes that is really intended to verify the efficacy of these payments. It includes automated data validation in our kind of claim system, some site inspections, and desktop audits that are performed by both Energy Solutions and VEIC. We generally check that the address is a real residential address. We check that the home has received the appropriate type and amount of incentivized equipment, and that the distributor has complied with required claim submission timelines.
Hey, Rebecca.
Yep.
If you don't mind, there's a couple of people who are asking the question of asking us to define what is a midstream incentive. And I
Oh,
think that might have gone by a little fast for people. Could you
okay,
expand on that for
sure,
a sec?
absolutely. Let's go back to, can we go back to the pyramid slide? Thank you. All right, so
Thank you.
this, I'll just explain this a little bit more here. So a midstream incentive is kind of referring to midstream versus downstream. Downstream is really when that incentive is provided at the customer level, or the homeowner, the renter, the building owner, the building occupant, however we want to call them. That would be considered a downstream incentive. The stream we're kind of looking at here is the stream from manufacturers to distributors to contractors to customers. And incentives can really be applied at any point in that stream. And what we're talking about midstream is it's somewhere in the middle, right? It's not at the top, it's not at the bottom. So midstream often refers to either incentives given at the distributor level or at the contractor level. In this case, this program is designed to incentivize at the distributor level because largely there's one, we believe it's very effective, and two, there's already many downstream programs that offer direct incentives to customers.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. We will jump to the next one, which is getting into some data.
Was it the next slide, Rebecca?
Next, please.
Thank you.
All right. So the accelerator is collecting tons of data from all parts of this program for all sorts of reasons. So we need to satisfy our reporting requirements, was maybe the least exciting reason. We want to gauge market transformation progress. So how are we coming along on shifting the market? We want to share learnings with stakeholders who can apply learnings to their programs and policies, both now during the program and also once this program sunsets. To foster continuous improvement as well. So this is a 4-year program. We know that things will change over time. We want to kind of learn what's working, what's not, and kind of incorporate those learnings into the program as we go. At the end of September, the NEHPA.org or NEHPA.org website will be at its full build out. There's already a fair amount of content there now. And it will include a searchable educational content space where we'll share a lot of these learnings from the innovation pilots and grants and some specially developed content for the site's audience, as well as a data hub that has some dashboards that will represent the midstream program data and full category sales data. Slide. Digging in a little bit further, the full category sales data aims to have a large representative sample to extrapolate information and insights about the entire HVAC and heat pump water heater equipment markets in the 5-state region. This will include non-heat pumps and non-qualifying heat pumps. And what that means is maybe some of the heat pumps that are not cold climate or not on the qualified products list. Plus, we will slice and dice all this incentive data to look for trends along many dimensions. What was the existing fuel type? Is it rural or urban? What is the income of the household? All of those things that we're all curious about. We'll look at how there's influence from stacking, so where the stacking is beneficial or not, and with those levels of stacking actually change behavior and participation. And then finally, we'll consider if adjustments need to be made to incentive levels to achieve the program goals. While it's really important for us to maintain some amount of consistency and not, move around the incentives so that our participants don't get frustrated, we also know that we need to kind of learn and adjust as we go. Slide. All right, so the program is focused on residential sector, so residential duty cold climate heat pumps and heat pump water heater technologies, but they are only when they're installed in single family and multifamily residential buildings for retrofit sales, not new construction. These current measures include the efficiency requirements and incentives. The incentives get paid to the distributor, who keeps a small stipend per unit and passes the rest along to the contractor, who passes those savings along to the customer on the customer's invoice. That's the intention. We launched this midstream incentive program initially in February of this year with just air source heat pumps and heat pump water heaters for single family residential buildings. But in June, we expanded to include air to water heat pumps as well as ground source heat pumps and multifamily applications. And that's really where we intended to kind of keep it at the time, but we do have plans going forward to do some assessments and potentially add some additional product categories. Slide. All right, this slide shows what the total incentive level the homeowner and or occupant would experience with this midstream incentive being layered on downstream incentives. So you notice here with this layering, there's some pretty big discrepancies across the states, with Massachusetts way up there and New Hampshire way down there. On the next slide, it shows a similar situation for water heaters, although maybe not quite as dramatic when we stack the accelerator midstream incentive with the state incentives. Thanks, slide. Okay, here I just wanted to share a little bit more about the data hub. This will be an interactive dashboard with downloadable data sets. I know everyone's always interested in getting more data for decision making and assessment. And we believe this will provide valuable insights to both regional and national stakeholders. This is really a snapshot. This is not real data of what these might look like. We expect to have configurability, granularity, and ability to kind of download some of this data. We are currently getting feedback from stakeholders in the New England area to make sure that this part of the program is really serving everyone's needs down the line. Slide. All right, this is a pretty recent view of how the incentives are coming along so far. Again, haven't been out in the market all that long. This shows state by state, and we are seeing an increased participation across the board. I think I saw some numbers this week about what's coming in, and it's kind of continuing to rise. But there are some obvious disparities here between states. So after we review this incentive data in the Q3 timeframe, we're going to wait until we get through roughly September, review all that data, and then evaluate if any changes are needed to address this disparity. Slide. Okay, this is a view of just a few of the things we're looking at here. So this is so far what it's looking like in terms of the low-income communities, the share of the dollars from these incentives that are getting spent in those communities. We do also have other parts of the program that are going to focus more on low-income communities, particularly our innovation grants and pilots, to make sure that we're really getting at barriers for some of those low-income communities. Slide. All right, and I think that is what I have around the incentives. And go ahead, Tara.
Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. My name is Tara Donadio. I am a Senior Manager of Policy and Programs at the Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships, or NEEP, as you may know us. We are a convener for the New England Heat Pump Accelerator, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about stakeholder engagement and the model that we developed for the accelerator for this. So I'm going to start here with a big list of stakeholders, which looks incredibly overwhelming, but obviously all of these are really important entities that need to be a part of the work that we're doing with the accelerator, and we need to find a way to reach them all. These stakeholders are all in the contract with the implementer VEIC to be able to reach. So you can imagine that's a very big task, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we are planning and already doing this work. So let me take a step back for a second and talk about why regional engagement. It may be very obvious, but just really laying it out there why this is such an important thing. We are a regional program. We are a coalition of 5 states. We want to make sure that ideas are being shared. These partners are getting the word to us. We are getting the word back to them that there's a sharing of ideas and we're not just doing this in a silo. We want to scale, reach, and impact. We want to ensure regional alignment. We want to create consistent channels for feedback. So these are key reasons that we're focused on this stakeholder engagement. And now just talking about how we figured out a way to do that or developed a plan to do that. We developed what are called regional engagement groups, which we have 3 different topics or kind of focuses depending on the expertise of the folks involved. We have our community outreach group, which is going to be community-based organizations, municipal sustainability offices, equity-focused groups. We have our technical advisory group, which is going to be, the folks working on the heat pumps and installing them. So manufacturers, distributors, trade groups. And then we have a housing engagement group, which is the housing authorities, the financiers. And basically, we developed these groups, which have about 15 to 20 people. They meet bi-monthly. We get their feedback on certain topics. They also get information from us to spread to their networks. These are folks that were identified by the coalition states, and we added them to these outreach groups. And that is going along really well. And then we also have something we're going to plan to develop out into 2027, which is ambassadors. So recognizing that each of these groups don't work in a silo and we need to have some overlap, getting members from each of these groups to kind of talk to each other and cross-pollinate. Another item that we're going to focus on in 2027, we are still working on, kind of the introduction of these groups and some early topics and getting this kind of feedback mechanism happening. But the idea being that these are like 60 or so people, if you add them all up, and that stakeholder slide that I listed just includes far more than 60 people. So finding ways to get those people to talk to their networks, the same constituent groups that are within that. There may be one housing agency. We want to make sure all of the housing agencies are included in this conversation. That would be the outreach tier. And then trusted community experts, which are going to be constituents who use approved materials to conduct things like peer-to-peer outreach. So getting the word out further than we could, ever do, even with our very large accelerator team. And noting that we are always getting feedback from these groups. So after every meeting that we have, we send feedback forms, we get information and ideas that we didn't have time to share in those 1-hour meetings, understanding important future topics, feedback on things that we're working on. The feedback ideas usually kind of align with what the groups are, but sometimes they do overlap. So for example, split incentives for multifamily is something that all 3 groups are very interested in seeing. So finding ways to talk about that in future groups. And then last but not least here, just talking a little bit about our stipends and fees that we offer in the accelerator. We have a budget to offer this to basically encourage participation, pay experts for their time, to ensure that we're getting feedback, that they're getting continued engagement, getting to educational programs and things like that. So we just wanted to kind of bring this up and show you that this is a great model, but also noting the best practices. We did develop a plan for stipends and fees. We are implementing that plan right now, but noting, all of the things that we had to think about, like fiscal responsibility, giving, these stipends to folks that already are getting grants in another part of our program, the administrative piece of actually paying people. So going through all of that with such a large program is definitely a feat, but we have a plan and we're working through implementing that now. So yeah, and I think that is the very last slide. And I thank you for learning about the New England Heat Pump Accelerator.